Alright, so I'm about to try this one more time. See if this actually works out. Um, there's a couple live streams up that weren't supposed to go up. Um, well, one of them were, but I deleted it. So I just want to see if things start filling up. If they do, then great, we can do the show. If not, I just want to see if it actually fills up, because otherwise I have no idea. I scheduled one stream, but I deleted that, so I don't know if people are on there or what. Hmm. Looks like again. This is I don't get it. I don't get it. All right. Let me see. Let me see if this starts filling up. Cause I've been doing a lot of research on this, and I just want to make sure um, that the notifications are actually going out there. As people come in, if they can let me know if they're getting the notification, that'd be great. That would help a lot. If you could just let me know if you're getting the notification, so we can get this show on the road here. All right, now people are starting to get notifications. Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, that's great. All right. All right, good. So we are getting notifications. All right, that's great. All right, so this is the Red Pill Dispensary. It's been a long time no see there, fellas. It's good to see everybody. Hoping it'll fill up a little bit more. I'm just hoping. I guess there's a couple scheduled live streams that should have been deleted, but I'm just gonna get right into the topic. So, first of all, I'm just trying out a couple new things. Like, for instance, I put super chat in. I monetized it, but very lightly. I just basically did like a when you start the video and then when you end it. So when it's coming towards the end, just skip out. You don't have to bother with that second one. That way, there's no ads in the middle. It's my first time ever doing it, so I thought maybe that was the problem. That along with just trying to see if super chat would work. It looks like it looks like super chat should be there, at least an option. Okay, so basically, we've all heard now about the oil tankers, and um, as far as the oil tankers, basically, we've heard different theories. If you've really been up on it, you've heard different theories about it. You've heard also that you know what? Let me. Even though people are getting notifications, that goes. It's just usually by now. Maybe it's because when you're off for a week, you know, people kind of forget about you, I guess. But I don't know. I'm pretty loyal. Loyal at least like 15 who are in by now. Okay, but anyways, so basically with Iran, there's all these different rumors going on out there. Now, there's going to be descriptions in the link. If you're watching this afterwards, there's going to be descriptions to everything that I'm talking about in the link. Okay? And so if you're watching this after the stream, just go into the description. If you want proof, people always say, well, give me proof. Well, it'll all be there in the description. So the U.S. If you guys heard Pompeo when he came out and he gave the U.S. position on this, they were saying that this attack was by Iran, and that this attack by Iran was a torpedo. That's the U.S. position on this event with the oil tankers. Now, few things that have come up since that are odd. And when I first start out with the economical part of it, and how stocks have responded, how stocks were expected to respond, how stocks were in the past have responded, as well as how the stocks actually did respond. Okay, so in the past, in situations like this, well, first of all, let me give you a little bit of background. So basically, on Wednesday, before this oil tanker situation happened, um, how you doing? It's starting to fill up a little bit. So how you guys doing? Um, so I was just trying out a couple of new features here. Um, into the story with the oil tankers. I put in live chat. I don't want to like make it too heavy with ads, so I just made an ad at the very beginning. And there's one at the very end, but you really don't have to watch that unless you're watching on a loop, you know, then you might have to watch it. But my suggestion would be, once it's at the obvious end of the video and I sign off, just go to your next video that you want to go to. Anyways, okay, so first thing about this situation, that by the way is right outside the Strait of Hormuz, just southeast of it, the Gulf of Oman. And the Gulf of Oman is in between the UAE and Iran. And if you guys had heard me on shows like I had called in with my Fugal, I have mentioned it on this channel, but I always said that once you start seeing things going down in the Strait of Hormuz, then you know it's on. Um, Now that's exactly what we're starting to see. It started out with just a few things like um, people from Yemen basically sabotaging their supply. Then it came down to oil tankers not being blown up, but again sabotaged. And then we're now in a position where these same oil tankers are now have been attacked. And now there's many different theories out there, um, but how can you know what theory to believe if you're not educated as to who benefits, what the economical repercussions are for Iran? Um, well, not just repercussions, but also the benefits for Iran. What are the repercussions and also the benefits for the U.S.? Well, as far as the way the stocks have responded, usually in a situation like this, and especially a situation like this, where the U.S. Has such a high supply right now of the oil, um, basically, what would happen is um, when something like this happens, and every single time, even when there were sabotages of the ships, there would be a overwhelming response by the stock market, and there would be like a boom. They would have all the prices would go up on the per barrel, which isn't exactly good for us at the pump, but it is good for us as far as our economy because we are such high suppliers. So um, going into this, I should say first on Wednesday. So this happened Thursday morning. We're just talking American time, Eastern time, let's say. The day before, the crude oil stock hit an all-time, a 6-month low. Okay, so I was gonna say for 2019, but a 6-month low for basically for 2019, an all-time low, and it went down 4 percentage points that Wednesday before. Now, you know how they always say, oil starts wars. And in a situation like this, I believe it's as true as any time. Because once the sabotage started, for some reason the price on, well, not for some reason, I'll tell you why, the price on oil would go up, and then every event afterwards, the price on oil would go up. So after the attack, not just like sabotage and all that, but an actual attack, which the U.S. position is that it was oil. I mean that it was. I'm sorry, guys. It's late, and I've been kind of stressed out. I didn't think I ended up going live. Um, so the position with so what happened with us was that these attacks happened, and they were projected that the stock market would go up. They call them points for like 5 to 10 percentage points. Well, they've only gone up um, so far, and actually right away they went up 2.3%. Then they started to go up, went down, came up a little bit, flatlined. So basically, that was it. That was all the gains, 2.44%. I mean, we're talking 5 to 10%. So if let's say they're expecting 7.5, I mean, they're getting like 33% of what they expected. So definitely not how they expected the markets to react. Now, my question is why? Why didn't the markets react the way that they had hoped? Okay, well, first, just to refresh, so the U.S. position was that these tankers were torpedoed. Iran's position is that they don't know what happened, but it wasn't them. That's their position. Now, meanwhile, these tankers are actually owned and operated by Japanese. And right before, I just want to get all the theories out there first. Right before this happened, the Japanese on board, and the owner ended up saying later that they saw a bunch of drones in the sky, and that they believe that whatever caused this on this oil tanker was caused by a torpedo. I mean, I'm sorry, it was caused from the sky down into the tanker. Um, so, with all these different theories out there, and people so quick to, especially today when that came out, that there were drones flying overhead. Our own allies, the Japanese, are saying that they saw drones and aircraft um, overhead. So, with our own allies saying that, it has to make one wonder, why is it that they kind of contradicted our official statement that Pompeo put out? Well, of course, the first thing people jump to is an FF, right? I mean, that's kind of what we do in this niche. We try to find the FFs, we try to see what's going on before it happens. Except that is such an obvious, or should I say, predictable point to make. Is that, oh, it was an FF, it's an FF, oh, they set it up so that this could happen, and you know but that's not necessarily the case. And by everything that I'm saying will be in descriptions, whether through articles, mostly basically through articles from reputable sources. You're not going to see any crazy, left or right wing sources. They're very reputable sources. Not if you're watching this video afterwards, those will be in the description. So first, why would Japan go against us? Well, I think that it's more so the men on that ship reporting what they saw, and I think they did see drones above. Um, Now, also at the same time, there was a bunch of chatter amongst the ships communications back and forth talking about that. Well, these that actually it was done by torpedoes. But I can tell you, I've listened to these, like oil tank merchant vessels and them talk before. They're as bad as, housewives. They gossip. Um, that's not to make them sound like they're just hanging out gossiping, but they do. When a major event happens, they kind of take the official story and run with it. The official story was torpedoes. That's what started becoming the chatter amongst the ships in the region. Okay, with that said, so we know what the U.S. official story is. We know what Iran's official story is. The next question is who benefits? Well, in the immediate aftermath, it is Iran, potentially long term as well. Um, Now, that is to say, um, they do not benefit long term. However, if this just goes from a economic, what it is right now, like an economical kind of uh, situation, into an actual military intervention. And with the military intervention, what we were talking about earlier with the stocks, that would cause the prices, the futures, as well as the that would not also be good for America as far as supply and demand. Yeah, we have all the supply, we can set the price, all that. Well, we don't set the price. The market sets the price. The market sets the supply, depending on the price. You guys know how this stuff works, I'm sure. So what I'm getting at is, although I do not believe and I'm sorry, I could easily just like tell you guys what you want to hear. But although I do not believe the official story, um, that it was torpedoed and that it went down and that Iran was the main culprit here, I just don't believe that's factual. What I just said. On the other hand, I also do not believe that the drones that were seen beforehand are the reason for what happened that day. Um, it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up because if that was the case, then well, first, are they American drones? I would assume so. So are the American drones? I mean, are the Americans that sloppy? If they're trying to pull off a colossal false flat, yeah, 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 flossing fag. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I just had to clean myself up there. Um, are they really going to do it? We've seen in the past things where there might be FFs, especially something that could lead to war. They're a lot more clean about how they do it. They're not going to have a bunch of drones around to be seen by these. By the way, the men on the oil tanker, they were Japanese. It was Japanese owned. They are allies of ours. It's not in their interest to tell lies. Now, although this isn't like official government, this is just regular guys on this tanker. It still doesn't add up. It still doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense for them. Now, I'm not saying that they weren't drones. I think there actually were drones in the sky, but for a totally different reason. I think that they know that every time there's something like this, especially where you see crude oil be affected in the stock market, and it benefit us right away. Not as much as you think it would, because the projections would be 5 to 10%, whereas it was only 2.4% after the day before, a drop of 4%. That's which is the only thing that kind of throws me off, is if it did drop 4%, it would be in our interest to do whatever it takes to kind of keep that up. They like to have that number per barrel, at 60 or above, then they're happy. If you go back and you look at any kind of attack on oil tankers, oil supply, anything like that, it's always when the barrel per price, the price per barrel is down around 50, 51, lower. It's never when it's this high, 60. So you might be saying, Red Pill, what are you getting at? And what I'm getting at is, in this situation, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. But if I had to give you my educated guess, I would say, well, who's not being talked about? I mean, we have Japan, we have Iran, we have the US, we have Iran, and they're all factors and they're all players, and there's fingers being pointed in every which way from all four countries. Well, Venezuela is not being mentioned, right? Now, am I saying Venezuela has anything to do with this as far as being responsible or anything like that? Well, indirectly, maybe. I think that there's kind of a power grab um, for that Venezuelan market. I really do. And first to it, whether it's us, China, Russia. Oh, and by the way, China, they've been all over this as well, but more so from an economical standpoint, because the thing with the U.S. economy as far as crude oil, if as long as we do not find any kind of negotiation with China, then the only way we're gonna get these prices of barrel back up, and which is good for the stock market, is if we somehow find, without having to do some kind of without some geopolitical situation happening, or conflict, or any kind of conflict that doesn't reach war. Those things do help bump that price up. But if we were to make a deal with China, that would help. Now, sounds like China might have a little bit to gain there as well. However, I look in a different direction. I do actually think that the Ruskies have something to do with this. That's just my gut. Now, I've been trying to give you as much information as I can, as far as to who the players are. How now, just to be 100% clear, who benefits? Iran. Yes, they benefit because they want to disrupt the supply and the route, which is obviously the Strait of Hormuz into the Gulf of Jordan. They want to disrupt that. I haven't even checked that live chat. All right, I'm live. We've got sound. How you guys doing? Yeah, they don't want any part of the U.S., but the thing is, see, FF, I just don't think it's the FF in the sense that we've become used to FFs. I think it's come to the point where us as a community, as this niche, although we're a small niche, we do cause more of like a reaction from countries and in the stock market than you realize. And certain countries, especially the Ruskies, I wouldn't put it past any country that isn't a staunch ally that has similar interests. What makes an ally is having similar interests. Well, despite Iran having a lot to benefit from this because they're kind of letting everybody know, like, hey, and that's their whole thing. They want to make it so that it doesn't feel safe to go through the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, I was looking at some insurance information. This is if you had, let's say, you owned one of these oil tankers. It would cost more now to insure that oil tanker and everything in it, obviously, which is what matters, since 2005. And if you remember back in 2005, what the world was like at that time, I mean, that's astonishing. Think of everything that's happened from then to now. And this is the most expensive it would be for insurance on an oil tanker. Now, more so with the crude oil in it. But now what I'm saying is that we have kind of sensationalized this FF thing, right? Well, could that be used against us? Where half the country thinks, okay, Iran did it. The other half of the country thinks, and actually probably more than half of the country thinks FF. Well, I'm not saying that Trump's perfect, and I've seen him do a lot to move the markets on purpose. But I do not, this just, one, seems too sloppy, and two, I mean, we're talking the Japanese. They're talking about, oh, there's these aircraft in the sky, and we right before it hit, we saw these drones go past. It just sounds bad. It just sounds bad. I think there were drones in the sky. I think there were drones from the Ruskies. I think there were drones from us. I think there were drones from China. I think there were drones from Iran. I think we all had drones out there. There was chatter amongst the intelligence communities, and something was about to go down. Now, what I think actually, first of all, happened as far as what the damage is from was from something called a Olympic mine. Now, Olympic mine is something that for years and years and years now have been used by frogmen, underwater demolitionists, who have now become our today Navy SEALs. Okay, does that mean the Navy SEALs did it? No, that doesn't mean that. Every country has their own form of special forces that can come from sea, air, land. I mean, maybe not as effectively as the United States Navy SEALs, of course, but every country with any kind of formidable navy will have these frogmen, and that's how the SEAL started. Was doing, they would go and they would plant explosives on ships and get out of there, and boom, just a couple guys do something that it would take a whole fleet to go out and do, and that whole fleet would be monitored. And, you have casualties. Well, boom, no casualties on that side. Just take them out. That's it. They're inoperational. In this situation, I don't think it was our people. I think it's somebody who has to benefit. Now, who has to benefit? Iran. Well, if Iran benefits, then guess who else does? The Ruskies. My educated guess would be that the Ruskies had something to do with this. That they went, and I think that Iran's kind of new, but they kind of agree with the Russian and the Russian intelligence, and they realize that this is a good thing for them. They didn't actually do it, so so they have these Olympic mines there. They came to the surface, and boom, there goes the side of the oil tanker. Once that happens, now there's also a video the U.S. has sent out showing that there's proof. Hey, this is them taking Olympic mine out of the water right afterwards from one of the oil tankers that were hit. Now, if they're doing that, if they're taking it out of the water, then why are they doing that? Well, we know that the Ruskies are their allies, right? So, makes sense. I mean, under direction from the Ruskies, I mean, so far, what the Ruskies have told them, the Ruskies have done a lot of the heavy lifting. And I think it was time for, Iran to take some of the heat on this one. Although I just don't think it was Iran. Although they have a lot to benefit from, making the shipping lanes seem dangerous to the point where insurance is higher than ever to have an oil tanker with the oil go through that strait and then into the Gulf of Oman. Um, they do have a lot to benefit from that. The stock prices didn't react the way they normally would in the U.S. to a situation like that. Normally, that would bump up the price of oil, whereas right before it plummeted due to the U.S. having such a large supply, while at the same time not reaching any deals with China yet. So that's not a good thing. And the fact that the market didn't respond, it almost the market speaks, and the market that tells me they don't believe the what the U.S. is saying word for word, but at the same time they don't think that this is a U.S. FF because it was so sloppy, and the markets did respond, just not only like one third, if that, as well, maybe one quarter as well as they expected it would in a situation like this. So there's been all these little things happening. There's been sabotage of the line, sabotage of ships, and now finally attacks on ships. I just don't see how it benefits. I just want to read some of these. I'm trying to look. I could easily come out and say some sensational stuff and what everybody wants to hear, but I would be abandoning everything I stand for. And I think that they know that in this country, we are extremely quick to say something's an FF. And rightfully so. We've been lied to so many times. I don't blame anybody who comes in here and they say, no, it's an FF. It's just another FF. It just didn't go. They guess this is the MIT, all right? Military Industrial Complex. They know what they're doing. They have been starving for something. Now, I think, Big Trump knows that. And sometimes it doesn't matter. It's not so much which nation and all that. It's more so, how can we, create something that's going to lead to war. Because that's the ultimate for at least. Now, we're talking about nations. Let's get real. Where the real money's at and the driving forces behind all these wars that we're now kind of getting hip to the point where we can always point out, that's an FF, that was an FF, that was this, that was that. We're getting hip to that. And I'll tell you one country that knows that, and that's the Ruskies. And they know that they were hoping probably for the U.S. to kind of turn, the U.S. people to turn against the U.S. Just a small percentage, but enough to make some noise. Enough to be out there on YouTube saying that was an FF and Trump did this and Trump did that. Or maybe the deep state, which kind of, in my mind, is extremely connected with the military industrial complex. Not the same thing at all, but similar interests, like we were talking about earlier, with when it comes to similar interest. Also, Japan's one of our allies. Maybe not the closest, but top 3 closest allies. What do they have to gain? Now I understand these are just guys who are working on a oil tanker and things like that, but I haven't seen any of those remarks kind of walk back. They kept on talking about all these drones in the sky, and they think it came from the sky. The chatter amongst the ships is saying, no, it was a torpedo. They're going with the U.S. version of things. Meanwhile, who's the peacekeeper kind of, escorting this ship? It's the U.S. Navy. I think this is a mess. And this attack on these oil tankers show what a mess it is over there. And that's what worries me. And the latest to come out of the White House is Trump saying, oh, you're going to keep that Strait of Hormuz open. And if you don't, we'll make sure it stays open. Well, those are tough words, and he's been known to back them up. And I just don't think that we should lose sight of the other potential players. Now, earlier, potential players not being mentioned, I mentioned Venezuela. Do I think that Venezuela, that Maduro got some ships and that? No, I don't. I don't think that he has anything to do with it in that way. I just think that they're involved because there's a vacuum to be filled. Yeah, exactly. Joe Shields from Boston. You see what I'm saying? Trust me, as much as I would love to come out and be a sensationalist and get all these clicks and views, I mean, it's my first time even trying to do like an ad. I've always been like anti ads, and it's my first time even trying to do super chat just to see if it works, all that type of stuff. Trust me, I wish I could come and say some sensational stuff and clickbait, but I just have to be honest because that's the way I've always been on this channel. I'm honest and I'm straight up about things like this, and but I will give my best guess, and my best guess is that the Ruskies and us are kind of posturing ourselves to take over the void that's going to be left by Venezuela, while at the same time, the Ruskies, when people say who benefits, they see Iran. They kind of forget anything Iran benefits from, the Ruskies benefit from tenfold. Um, So it's almost like, and I'm sure Iran wouldn't mind, taking that. And after there's just not going to be enough factual 100% evidence because it really wasn't them. Because trust me, our intelligence services are amazing. They they're thinking this all through right now. Um, But it makes sense for them to blame Iran for now and say, well, Iran did this, as well as, like I said, this wasn't caused by a torpedo. This wasn't caused by someone what the Japanese men said from that oil tanker saying that. I'm sure that there were drones, like I said, but um, this wasn't caused from the air. I believe this was caused by a um, very simple tool that's been used for a long time now by Navy SEALs, frogmen, or any type of frogmen from any country that the U.S. Navy has. And I know I'm repeating myself on this, but for people who are just coming, and that is that I'm trying to be careful with what I say as well, and that is that Olympic, it's called Olympic a mine. And basically, what Olympic mine is, there'll be description also on that in the bottom for people watching later. With Olympic mine, it's like a mine, and it'll like kind of float up and then stick to the side of the ship. Now that's something that's used a lot by frogmen. You minimize casualties almost to zero on your side, and you pull off an attack and take out a ship. It's usually used in military, but if you're waging war, I mean, oil tankers are definitely a way to utilize it. And also, one of the proofs that the U.S. released, which will also be in the description, is basically it shows an Iranian ship pulling this Olympic mine out of the water. And you can see where the actual impact is, where the Olympic would have touched and then exploded. And you can almost, I don't really see how the two match up, as well as I think that it would look a little bit different if it was a torpedo. So they went from saying it's a torpedo to now showing them taking Olympic um, mines out of the water and saying that that's proof as well. So are they saying that the Olympic mines didn't work, so they just torpedoed them? I don't know. I think Iran's getting it out of the water because maybe it's damning to the Ruskies. That's my opinion. Now, I'm curious to hear what your opinions are down below in the comments. But I also just wanted to add to people coming in. The day before this all happened in the stock markets, because of such high supplies of crude oil for the U.S., however, at the same time, this China slash Russia war going on. I mean, I'm sorry. Uh, China and the U.S. Tariffs and economic war going on. Um, it doesn't make the futures, and it doesn't make a lot of this beneficial for the U.S. to want either. Um, and a lot of these like who benefit roads do go to the Iranians, but who benefits even more? Anytime Iran benefits, who benefits the most? Even maybe even more so than the Iranians, and that's the Ruskies. I wouldn't be surprised if this was one of those things that was so messy that we just made to muddy the waters just enough and depend and almost bet on our ignorance as a country. And I'll admit, we have a lot of ignorance in this country, to the point where people are so quick to dismiss any type of conspiracy theory. I mean, a lot of people have woken up, but let's be honest. Most just anything, if it even comes close to a conspiracy theory, they don't want to hear it. Then you have people who are awake, but they're so awake that they think everything is a conspiracy theory, and I do not blame those people one bit if that's how you feel. I do not blame you. Oh, my first it's my first live chat. Mark Knott, thank you so much. Yes, it did show up. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's my first live chat. I put that in just to see if it worked, and thank you so much. So yeah, and I don't blame also anyone who says this is an FF and the US and they messed up. I understand that coming from the outside. I try to put myself in other people's shoes. As somebody who is very deeply a part of the United States intelligence services, it's situations like this that are very interesting to me. And once again, thank you, Mark Knott. And in these such situations, we would not have this many mistakes. We would have certain allies on notice, so we didn't have the Japanese talking about drones in the sky, making it sound like something that we said it wasn't. We wouldn't have a situation where we don't benefit. I mean, we could potentially benefit if there was a deal. If there was a deal that's about to be had, if a deal happens in the very near future with China, okay, then you know what? Let's start talking about it again. I'll release part two. In fact, there's going to be a part two no matter what, because this is a dynamic situation, because it has so many moving parts. It seems like every hour there's a new story coming out about this, and it just makes you wonder why. Why can't they just, the story that the Pentagon went out wasn't factual, or it was based on fact, but it wasn't factual as to what happened. And but how else are they supposed to respond? I mean, not say anything? They just don't have the bottom line yet, and they don't want to look like they don't have the answers either. And I think it's a safe bet right now for them to say Iran. The only part of that that's concerning to me is that's exactly what the military industrial complex wants. Now that's a whole new entity. That we're not talking countries anymore. We're talking a beast that needs to be fed. And I'm just hoping that the escalation that we've seen in the Strait of Hormuz is not going to continuate to the point where it goes from this thing where, the day before all this, the one thing that throws me off, the day before this happened, the price per gallon plummeted, and crude oil stock plummeted. And it seems like every time there's some type of geopolitical, I don't want to say conflict, but issue, let's say, that it bumps up. Now, it's not bumping up to the 5 to 10% expected, but it's only bumping up 2.4%, 2.42%, I saw. And then you would think Friday, today, earlier today, it would bump up high. No, it almost kind of came down to earth. And it went up a little, then it lowered, then it flatlined. Or vice versa, lowered, high, flatlined, something like that. But not much change today either. Very small change. So, the stock markets definitely do speak. And I think they're speaking that we don't know exactly what the hell went on, what happened here. It wasn't an accident. This is on purpose, especially since what it looked like Wednesday, where it was like such a plunge. That was the 2019 low for prices. And if you look back to any time there's been some type of FF or natural disaster, just some type of disaster that they explain away a different way, just look back. I guarantee you that the price of a barrel of crude oil is lower than 60%. In fact, significantly lower, like 52, 53, 54, something like that, or lower. I'd say under 55. I mean, under 60, because it can go a whole lot higher than 60. Once it hits 60, you don't see stuff like this happen. You never do. So, it looks like the drums of war are being beaten. At the same time, we have our own allies contradicting us. At the same time, we have an official story that matches who benefits, because you always want to look who benefits, short term, long term. And the only thing I can think of that makes sense right now is that this was engineered by the Ruskies. I know they're not as a major player as they used to be, but they are enough of a player to pull this off, yet it be sloppy, and they kind of deal in deception anyway. And I think what they're trying to do is muddy the waters. And they it's almost like, it's always good to have somebody, the way they would think, someone like Iran that almost takes the fall first. It's like a buffer. Both, geologically as well as, figuratively speaking. So I was just curious to what some of you guys thought. I was gonna check out some chat. I'm sorry, guys. I wish I could be a little bit more decisive, or I would be lying. So I think you guys rather I be honest with my opinion instead of just trying to say, what gives you a good thrill, or we all get a good thrill from that big story, and this is a big story. So it just might take time for this for the some of the moving parts that are going on and some of the muddying the waters to clear up and those moving parts to kind of slow down and us really see what's going on here. You know, or just simply say, "Oh, it's an FF." Do I believe the official story? No, I don't. Um, so I don't believe the official story. I don't. I want to see what you guys have to say though. Let's see. Is that right? 40%? Well, it's my first time using it. Checking it out. See how it goes. I know, right? And that's another thing. The only alternative is PayPal. So if you guys ever want to donate to the channel, I've been around a long time with the ability to monetize, the ability to super chat. Never have, but it came to a point where I'm putting a lot of work into it, and I did do PayPal, but nobody ever used it. So at least the super chat there. Let me see. I'm gonna see if I can take a call right now. Let's go. I'm gonna try to call drop right now because I want to hear somebody else talk about this. It's just I'm worried because, as Drop would know, and a lot of you know, my computer, my third computer in 2 months for the same reason the BIOS chip stopped working, which is why I'm dealing with limited resources as compared to when you watch if you've been with me longer than 2-3 weeks.